is all the special things that people tell you that are not in the book. Okay? So I will give you stuff on staging that's not in the book. I'll give you stuff on, how to sell your listings and how to get the listing. Right? You gotta get the listing. And that's part of this, especially where you guys are in this process, is you have to get listings. Listings bring leads, it kind of goes together. If you have listings, you're gonna have buyers from it if you market it right. If you do the open houses the way that they say to do open houses, you guys all have time to do a 5-level open house, right? 5th level. You all have that time. There's no excuses. Like for me, I can find excuses that I don't have time to do a 5th level. Luckily, I have 6 other people on the team who can kind of do some of those things for me. So leverage is a really important part of this. As you get into this, even though you're solo agents, or maybe you've joined the team, you need to have some leverage, right? Leverage just means you take some of the stuff off your desk that, really anybody can do it, right? You need to be lead genning and you need to be doing that part of this business. That's what this business is all about. So, we're talking about leads, and I look at it as a funnel. All these activities that you're doing, you have to think of it as a funnel. I call it oftentimes a pipe, because in this business, it's all leads going in. Now, in your book, they have a funnel, right? And it kind of talks about you have to have leads. From those leads, you're going to have a certain number of appointments, and from those appointments, you're going to have a certain number of listings or buyers, right? You're going to have whatever your ratio is. You should know how many calls to make in a day in order to get one appointment, right? So therefore, if it takes you 25 calls to get an appointment, you need to do 50 to get 2, and so forth and so on. The other part about this that's really important is that this business is over time, right? This is not get quick in 10 minutes and make, 6 figures like tomorrow, right? It does happen. However, this is over time. Think of a pipe, okay? You stuff the pipe full of leads, right? The pipe is getting full. They start trickling out the other side. You get a couple closings, listings. Over time, the more leads you stick in that pipe, the more pressure there is. And as any pipe, there was a number of part of the pumps in here, but the pipe gets so full, it suddenly explodes out the other side. And that's the goal of this business, is to have so many leads in your pipeline that eventually the pressure builds up so much that it starts exploding out the other side. We did 83 closings last year. We're probably going to do between 83 and 100 this year. And, that's done over time. It's not just, I've been in this a long time. I have an unbelievable sphere, right? So think of it like that. Think of it as I'm building a business over time, right? So kind of keep that in mind. It's really important. That's what this picture talks about in your book, the sphere, okay? This funnel. Making it happen, marketing, and servicing your listings. First of all, I want to talk to you guys like you're new agents, right? And you're going to be competing against me. So think about that a minute. You're going to be competing against me, right? When you go out there, you and I are going to be competing for the same listings. Now, we all have good culture and we treat each other with respect. If you get a listing over me, I always say that for I don't care who it is. I'll say, I'm sure he or she will do a great job for you. Right? That's our culture at Keller Williams, right? It's not cutthroat like it is a lot of other places. The reason why I say this is that you have to think of what your strengths are, right? Over mine, right? My strengths is that I sold a gazillion houses in my career, right? I know what I'm doing, and I'm considered a pro. Now, what do you have to beat that? What you have is you have the time to really give awesome customer service, right? You need to develop scripts to beat me. And those scripts, quite simply, when I lose to a new agent, it's usually because they want to give you a chance. Number one. Number two, if you're good, you're going to be able to say, you know what, you're my most important client. I'm going to give you full attention. You're going to, I'm always going to be there, always going to give you the best customer service you've ever seen. You need to come up with your own scripts. I'm going to tell you exactly what to say, but you get the theme there, right? Is that I can't probably do that great. I mean, I do, because I got tons of leverage, but they don't think I can sometimes. So you need to kind of think about the script that helps you get that listing, right? Without being negative and throwing the other person under the bus. That's a really important part of getting a listing and selling a listing. You gotta get it, right? So keep that in mind. You also need to be a pro. You start to need the greatest compliment someone will give you in your career, and you'll remember this, is someday someone's gonna call you a pro, a professional. That is the ultimate compliment in any profession, but especially real estate. I remember the day my mentor said to me, one day I was working with a really good broker, really experienced, and he said to me, he goes, she's a pro, you're gonna learn a lot. And the thing about that was absolutely right. It kind of registered in my head, pro. You know, that's what I want to be. I want people to call me a pro, right? So think of it like that. The day, I want you to think about it. Someday, they're going to call you a pro, right? And that's going to be coming to age for you in your career as a real estate agent, the day that happens. So how do we do that? Well, you become a student of the process. I'm going to talk to you about what you need to know to get a listing. And one of the first things you need to be able to talk about staging. What is staging? Which is in your book. Glasses. We've talked about all this already, right? You know, note cards. In your time when you do stuff, I try to write. I know try is a bad word, but my goal is to write 5 cards a day. And quite frankly, I haven't had time to do it every day, and that's on me. But I'm pretty good at writing 5 personal notes in my sphere, right? That's part of my lead gen time. The previewing homes. You know, you can do it during the week. You know, you can set up an appointment and showing time, go preview a house. You know, you can basically take advantage of broker open houses that they have them all the time in different areas, right? So you can do stuff during the week to preview homes. You can be a professional student of this too, right? You guys realize that you could basically come to Keller Williams and sit here in this chair every day forever and never make a nickel because you never got out there and did it. So I agree, you gotta be here, you gotta get the data info, but you gotta be able to go up and set appointments, right? My goal for my agents on my team is that they have 2 signatures a week. This is a very concrete thing you can really measure, right? Make it something you can measure. 20 appointments, 20 phone calls. You know, is that the ones I call and they don't pick up and leave a message? You know, it's just, if you get 2 signatures a week, right, times 4 weeks, that's 8, times 12, you know, it's like 60 whatever, 2 signatures. If you have 62 signatures, and that means contracts, buyer agents stuff, right? Buyer agreements, listings, you're going to be fine. If you close half of those, that's 32 closings. That's pretty good living. So, you know, try to make it tangible. You want signatures, right? That's really important. This class is actually on selling your listings. I'll try to stay on topic, but all this stuff is really important, right? To kind of get this. Staging. What does that mean? When someone says I'm going to stage a house, what does that mean to you? Yeah.
To set it up so that it's appealing to when somebody walks in.
Yeah. Yes.
So if it's vacant, it's put new furniture inside and looks like when the buyers came to home, the buyer emotion will go up, so they're gonna want to buy the house.
Yeah.
Or upper the price because of that emotion.
Right. Get more. That's this statistic in your book. Those people that stage houses, you know, definitely get a higher percentage. And it talks about that in your book. I'm not going to read it to you. It's in there. Statistically, you get more if you stage it. I like your point about making it look good. Staging doesn't mean that you go out and get a stager and have the stager come in and bring all kinds of different furniture in and you know, cost your seller between $500 and $1,000 a month just to do 2 rooms and stuff like that. That's not really what that is staging. That's not necessarily what staging is. You have to be able to talk the language of staging. So, you know, we can talk language of staging together here and have a wonderful time, right? We can like come up with the greatest ideas for staging that sound like we really know what we're talking about, but in reality, you're going to be talking to a seller. And there's a huge difference between talking to a seller and us talking to each other. A seller wants to hear how you're going to maximize the dollars he or she invests in that house through staging to get more out of it, right? So, staging starts with simple stuff, right? Staging starts with getting a good flow in the house of just furniture, right? If there's too much stuff, getting a good flow, decluttering. The most important staging thing, in my opinion, is paint. Paint is probably the best return on your money that you can have, other than moving stuff around, which costs nothing. But if you're going to have someone invest in your property, is that they need to paint. How many times do you go in a house and you see walls that are got, you know, crayons all over them, woodwork's all beat up from, you know, baby strollers and whatever, right? That's really hard to get by, and it's really cheap to fix. Painting a house out, especially if you can do it, they can do it themselves, is really, really inexpensive, right? Gallon of paint is $40, right? So, versus if I have my stager, which I pay for an hour of staging, that's part of mine when I talk about it, again, coming from contribution, what's your value package that you bring, right? I pay for an hour of professional staging. That means she comes in, if it's more than an hour, because it can be, if the seller takes that, and I usually pay for it anyway, but I want her to come in and not talk and, you know, be on a coffee break the whole time, not do anything, right? I want her to be there. I have 2 female stagers. They come in, I want the seller to actually be not talking to her because they know that they're going to be paying for it if it takes forever, right? So that's fine. You got to know what your value proposition is, what you're going to bring to the table. So I offer that. Oftentimes, I've done staging for so long with so many people, half the time I just do it because I've done it forever, right? Now, I like to have a stager come in to tell the difficult ones that they need to do stuff, right? So it's a third person, it's not me. I don't want to be the ogre. So a stager can take that away from you by being the ogre. And I have one really tough one who doesn't care and will tell you exactly they care about their feelings. And I tell them, so and so is really tough. She's going to tell you some stuff you're not going to want to hear. However, this is about you making the choices for you, and you can choose to do as much as she says. So try not to be offended by the way she comes across. She's going to try to help you get as much out of this. You can do as much, and I take it away a little bit by saying you can do as much or as little as she suggests. So they feel more in control of it. Because she comes in and she says, those gold fixtures need to go, and she nails the whole house, right? So if there's something to nail, we'll definitely have something else. So that's part of what staging means, right? Cutting the grass. Remember this: a house, a buyer comes to a house, the first thing they see is the front door, right? They come in, think of it as they walk up this, what are they going to see when they walk up the walkway? That's part of the staging. It's not just the inside of the house. If the shrubs are all not cut, and the grass isn't cut, and right now, you pretty much can get away with anything. I had a house the other day, a month ago. I asked the guy, I go, are you going to cut the grass? And the guy goes, yeah, cut the grass. I said, okay. Well, we put under contract, the grass was this long. Now it's still not cut. It's this, I'm closing this week, I think. It's this long, and I'm going, and I told her, I said, do I need to send a guy over to cut your grass? Because, you know, I'll send some. No, I'll do it. Well, the guy still hasn't cut it. So it's like, how can you pass the house on with grass this long? You know, it's just awful. So think about that. Cutting the grass is $25 for a kid in the neighborhood, right? Come over, or your landscaper guy for $50. Come over and cut the grass. And that's, you can say, you know, you do that, and your seller will go, wow, thanks. That's the best closing gift you can probably give sellers, to take something off the table like that, right? So cutting the grass, you know, I have another listing going on today. There was some rot up on a kind of an eave, and I just said, you know, we gotta fix that. You know, we gotta get that done. That's part of staging. First thing you see is this rot, you know, it's like, we gotta get that fixed and paint it. So we did that, and you know, it looks much, much better. That's part of staging too. Now, there's lots of different ways to stage a house, and I want to talk about a vacant house. I prefer a vacant house over a half-staged house. Okay? I have done it every way in the book. I've had the stager come in and stage 2 rooms. My seller's all freaking out over how much it's costing her, and you know, this market's a lot easier than it used to be. You don't have, oftentimes it'll sell fairly quickly. But what I prefer is, I'd rather have nothing in the house than have 1 or 2 rooms staged. And the reason why is because there aren't any doubts about what's going on there. They're out, they're gone. Whereas if there's 1 or 2 rooms staged, the buyer comes in and goes, what's going on here? Where are these people? They don't even see the house, right? It's just like, they don't see the house, they miss the house. They can see their own stuff there with nothing in it, right? Oh, this is where my couch will go. Oh, this is where we'll put the TV. You know, this is where the bed goes in the bedroom. If you're a good buyer agent, you can kind of help that, because there's some things that, you know, help you. You're trying to create the vision. You know, like when I go into a bedroom, I don't just go into a bedroom. You know, I don't go, hey, this is the bedroom. No, don't do that. Go into the bedroom and you say, oh, this is probably the best place for the bed, because the heat is over here on this wall, and you don't want the heat on your head. Right? So instead of saying, this is the bedroom, this is the kitchen, this is the whatever, you should be able to say, you know what, the bed seems to fit best here because of the heat that's being on this wall. Or, geez, you know, this room's a little awkward because I think you'd have to put the bed here. Maybe you could kitty corner it. You know, you're talking about getting them to envision what that room's going to look like, right? So that's how you sell your listings, is that if you're, especially if you're a buyer agent, how you sell as a buyer agent, right? Create the vision of what it's going to look like. So, last thing on staging is virtual staging. I've used virtual staging. It's oftentimes a staging technique I use when I can't get the house under contract right off the bat and it's vacant. So I've had, you know, and I usually do this on houses that are more expensive. I wouldn't do it with, you know, something cheap, you know, like whatever. But if it's 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever, and there's nothing in it, I definitely will do virtual staging. It's about $200 a room. The key to it is when you have a vacant house. This is really something you probably should write down. You probably forget it anyway, but this is really important. When you have your photographer, staging is good pictures, right? I have pretty much every house I do has a professional photographer. Okay. When you have an empty house, this is the part that's really important. Have your photographer shoot the rooms so that you can add virtual furniture to it. You don't want a half wall, right? So let's say this is a wall where the couch is going. Don't shoot it so like it's half that way. Shoot it so it's on straight this way, so that when you do the virtual staging, you can drop in that couch on the wall, and it actually looks like a full house, full couch, right? Doesn't it? You can't drop a full couch into a half wall space. So it's just kind of, you have to think about how you're going to have a photographer shoot an empty house. And you know, he or she may know how to do that. They're really good and they've been around a while. I just say to my guys, you know, shoot this so that I have to add furniture down the road. You know, I may have to do that. I really have to do it. I've done it a couple times, you know, in all these years, and actually did sell a house, both of them. So, virtual staging, there's several virtual staging companies on, you know, just Google it, it'll come up. I can't remember who I use, but I think they're both quite good. You can, if you have a contemporary house, you can choose contemporary furniture. If you have, you know, you have a ranch, you can choose, you know, like a contemporary ranch, or if you have an old farmhouse, you can choose furniture that kind of fits the decor of what might be in there to create the vision of it. It's just an option. Any questions on staging so far? Yeah.
So when you negotiate with the seller about the staging, do you offer as your service and negotiate for your commission about it, or do you want them to pay for it? Because some low-end homes is gonna be cost is gonna be so much for us for
Yeah.
paying from our commission.
I just ask them to pay for it. If it's more than an hour, it usually isn't more than an hour. And I don't negotiate that. That's part of being a full service broker. This quote is really important. Don't trip over the nickels and dimes getting to the dollars. Especially in your career right now. I think in my career now, actually I don't, but you know, you need listings. You need experience. You need to get stuff. You need to have buyers. You need to have listings. You need to get some on the board, right? You don't want to have none on the board. You guys got to do whatever you can get. Do. I don't care if it's in a rustic county. You need to get something going, and you need to be able to say, yeah, I've sold houses before, right? That's the key. Someone says, hey, have you sold houses? If you're saying no, that's all you kiss to death. You got to get something on the board. So get going. You know, get something. You know, I don't care if it's inconvenient, I don't care if it's in York County, I don't care if it's in the lakes. Anybody in your sphere who trusts you enough to list their house with you, you can list it. Go for it. Don't refer it out. Now, I'm telling you this because I know how important it is to have experience. You gotta get stuff on the board, right? You can talk about real estate all day long, but until you do it, you know, that's the best teaching when you got one, right? So, you gotta get on board. Any other questions? That answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Typically, and maybe it varies from, cause I'm from the Androscoggin area.
Yeah.
What does an hour of staging typically cost?
A couple $100. Yeah. My people charge $200. I don't know what it would be up there, but right now you need to be able to have a good value proposition to get a listing. And if you can say you have a stager and you'll pay for the first hour, like I said, don't triple the nickels and dimes, get to the dollars. You don't even have a listing.
Yeah.
Right? Worry about that. That'd be a great problem for you to have to pay for a stager. That's a wonderful, that'd be like, yeah, I gotta pay $200 for a stager. Cause that means you got a listing. That's awesome. You gotta get on the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, any other questions? Yeah.
More. So let's say the home is worth of $250 and we want to stage the home, and seller wants us to pay, and is vacant, by the way.
What?
Is vacant, like no furniture inside, is empty house.
Yeah.
So
Well, an empty house is really easy to stage, isn't it?
but it also
Just needs to be
expensive,
cleaned.
right?
It needs to be painted. That's what you suggest, is like, okay, these are the things that it's his house, right? It's not your house, right? I'm not doing repairs on their house, right? These are the things I suggest that you do to improve the saleability of your home. The pronouns you use define what you're saying, right? Always. So if you think about it, these are the things that I suggest that you do to improve the saleability of your house, right? I am a full service broker, right? But I'm not doing painting, and I'm not paying for a painter, and I'm not paying, I have paid for cleaners, but they should be able to pay for that stuff. Now, if they don't have the money to do it, then they need to kind of do it themselves, right? You tell them what they need to do, but we're not in the business of doing home repairs. I have every provider of whatever service there is that I think that's reliable, reasonable, show up, and I will provide those names, right? So that's something you need to do too. You need to start developing a list of vendors, right? By the way, while you're doing that, this is a great way to kind of do your prospecting. Business to business referrals, right? Hey, John, hey, Jane, I am looking for someone to partner with. I'm a real estate agent, and I'd like to have a person that cleans homes for me when I need them, or whatever, you know, plumber, need a plumber on my list, hopefully I can generate some business. Look for hungry plumbers, new people, right? New guys. My electrician I've had for 15 years, he was all by himself, right? One guy. Now he's got 3 crews, he's really busy, but guess what? I gave him a ton of business over the years, and he always seems to find someone to come take care of my problems, right? Because I've had him for a long time. That's what you need to do, all over time, right? So, when you're doing your prospecting, go to I know this is almost impossible to find today, so figure out how you do it, but I used to say, go to the yellow pages of a phone book, which no longer exists. So, however you can do this, go to A. Who are the accountants that you know? B. Who are the bankers that you know? C. Who are the carpenters that you know? D. Who are the doctors that you know? Right? Who are the electricians that you know? E. F. Whatever. All the way through the alphabet, and start thinking about, first of all, people that you know with those names, that have those professions, but also start thinking about developing a business-to-business referral network. I have one that I started 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and we are an unbelievably good force, and they're all like really good business people. And I have my financial advisor, an attorney, commercial broker, all kinds of, you name it, media people, you name it. I created this with my stockbroker, financial advisor 8 years ago, and that network is an incredible network of people, right? We network we meet once a month, 7:30 in the morning, oftentimes here, and that's what you need to do. Start networking with people that you know. Lead gen with people that you know. Ask them for business, right? Call them up and say, tell them what you're doing, say, you can help me out. That's my favorite line. That's what I teach all my agents to do. Call up whomever and say, you can really help me out. Everybody wants to help. They know you. They care about you. They want to help you out. So use that line when you're lead generating, right? And ask for business-to-business referrals, right? So that electrician, hey, if you know someone who's thinking about buying or selling, let's see if we can send each other business. First of all, it's really important to be thinking like that, right? And for them to realize that you're a business person. Guess what? You guys are in business. This is not a hobby. I never made a nickel out of hobby. Ever. If you treat this like a hobby, you're going to make 0 money. If you treat it like a business, there isn't any limit how much money you can make in this business. So just keep that in mind, right? All right. Let's see where I am here. I'll lose track. You have any questions on that? We already talked about this, and I think we talked about that. Handwritten notes a little bit. I have a gazillion handwritten notes. I have thousands of notes, note cards. And, every season you can think of, I have a card for it, right? And I encourage my team to write notes. Write a note, and just acknowledge, I'll tell you a really good story. This is awesome. My daughter, who been around real estate all her life, she was 4 years old, driving around going, that's a Cape, that's a Colonial, that's a ranch. She's been around, real estate all her life. So anyway, she was working for Unum, and she wrote a card to Paychecks, the person that she met, who was like the president or whatever. And she wrote a personal note. Guy calls. I haven't received a personal ever. Jesse got the entire company of Paychecks in the country as clients for Unum, right? That's like crazy money. Like, 6 figures plus from that one postcard. Not postcard, one handwritten note, right? So, that's the best return. It cost you 50 cents, but that was probably, over 6 figures in commission for several years. So, handwritten notes, they work. Get you ahead in the game. I think I'm talking to you about getting you ahead in the game. We talk about market staging a lot. you know, the next part's kind of marketing. What's the difference between marketing and prospecting, or marketing and, yeah, prospecting? What do you think the difference is? Do you wanna speak to that?
Me?
Yeah.
Prospecting would be trying to find out, I guess, reaching out to people that you know in your sphere of influence, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And marketing would be the way that you want to reach people outside of your sphere,
Yeah.
maybe a larger circle that maybe you don't know yet, so maybe through ads or in Made Home and Design or.
That's what, exactly.
So I used to sell in Made Home and Design.
She
Or,
used
yeah.
to be one of the, for Main Home Design, it used to be our contact.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
The reason why I asked her that is because that's what she used to do. Marketing, you know, and prospecting are different. Prospecting is when I call every broker who's, I go on MLS and I look and see who's actually had souls in Falmouth, for example, in that 400 price mark. The brokers that are there, right? That's had house listings fairly recently. And I call them up and I go, hey, who are some of the brokers that were shown at your house that didn't get that house? I then get the names from John had one, and I had like, I think Patty came in, okay, good. I call those guys. I go, hey, you had a buyer for ABC Main Street. I just talked to, you know, John. Are they still out there looking? I have a new listing coming on today. You know, I can get you in there really easily. That's prospecting, right? Marketing is a little bit more passive, and usually costs you a lot more money, right? For me, marketing is kind of passive, and prospecting is really active, right? Prospecting would be, I mean, even sending out an email blast to all the brokers with your new listing, that's really marketing, right? Calling them all is more prospecting. Prospecting doesn't cost any money, and marketing usually does, right? So, you know, you have to have a plan on how you're going to market your listings before you go to the appointment. Know what it is, right? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to send out postcards in your neighborhood. Now, whether that works or doesn't work, it doesn't really matter. What matters is you have a plan that's written down and you can talk about it like you know what you're doing, right? I'm going to also network with the top 100 agents in the area, 50, whatever you want to say, 50 agents, and I will either call them or I will email them, I will contact them to make sure they know this listing is here. So you should have a bunch of bullets that you're going to talk about in your listing appointment that you're going to do. And by the way, when you say you're going to do it, right? Don't just say you're going to do it, then don't do it, right? That's like the worst thing you can do, is to overpromise and underperform. It's the other way around, right? Underpromise and overperform. It's more like the way it should work. So get an idea of what you're going to do for marketing, study it, practice your presentation so it flows, right? You don't want to be stumbling over it. You want to do it like a pro. You want to do it like this is how I do it. This is what I do, blah, blah, blah. You know, you have questions about it, try to get them engaged in the conversations, be able to answer questions about what that means. There are tons of CMAs out there that help you, or outlines of CMAs. You can kind of read through and see what other people do. There are tons of them, right? So get a plan for that. Whether it's have they talked to you about a pre-list package yet? Yeah, good. So you maybe have a pre-list package that you drop by before you go to the listing appointment. It's a really nice thing. In this market that's so competitive and so tight, I usually try to do a one-stop, right? One-stop versus a two-stop. Two-stop's much better because I know the property better and it's really accurate. Whereas if I do a one-stop, I haven't seen the house, I'm pulling comps, I'm looking at stuff, I'm putting it together without seeing the house, and then I have to make an adjustment when I'm there. Condition, you know, stuff like that. Quality. It's a little harder because you can't sit down and think about it. You gotta do it quickly in your head, right? You gotta be able to do it. One stop's probably more efficient in getting listings because you don't want the next guy to come in and close it, because there's gonna be another person who's probably gonna do it one stop. You're not even gonna get back in. If I'm in after you, I'm probably gonna not leave there until I get a signature, right? I mean, I'm not real pushy, but my goal is to get a signature there, right? So that I basically will call you and I'll say, Mr. and Mrs. whoever asked me to call you. I just listed this house and they wanted to thank you for coming over. I don't have a seller call because they're dreading that. I call you and say, I just listed the property, you know, I'm glad to work with you at Cobro, blah, blah, blah. And that serves notice that you shouldn't call them back. That it's listed. Did you have your hand up?
I was just curious, cause I'm kind of in that situation, a friend of mine that, from a church I used to go to, I've got a CMA that I wanna present to her, but I haven't seen the home yet. And this will be my first appointment, and I've been coming here for 8 weeks, and I haven't gotten into a home yet. And it's like you said, I need to get my head in the game, but I feel like I'm not ready, I feel like I'm not prepared, I don't know how to use the stuff, and I don't wanna fumble and look stupid. And so, what about the idea of doing the CMA but on all the different conditions? Like one for good, one for excellent, one for fair. So you have 3 different ones that you can, after looking at the home. Then I'm thinking, well, who am I to determine what's good, fair, and excellent, you know?
Right.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
It's all about the experience,
It's
you
a
know?
great question. That's an awesome question. I'm glad you asked it. First of all, what I do is I come in and I don't have a price. Right? I have the comps. Comps aren't going to change. It's going to be the same comps. An appraiser's going to use 3 comps that are within a mile of that house. That's what you basically should look for. Now, if you're up in, I don't know, J or something, probably, unless it's in the town, you know, if you're up in a country setting or something, it's different, right? It's more than a mile. But the comps aren't going to change. Whatever your 3 comps are, they stay the same. The adjustments are different, right? That's the part that you have to kind of study. You know what? For you need to talk to the seller and say, look, this house, look at the pictures of those comps that you are using. This house had a really nice kitchen, updated granite, beautiful custom cabinets, had, you know, hardwood floors. You know, that kitchen, you know, whatever you think it's worth. Kitchens can go from, you know, whatever, 100,000 plus, right? Could be 50,000, could be 10. But whatever it is, you've got to have them start realizing that their kitchen's not up to par compared to the comps. Now maybe they have exactly the same kitchens. That makes it easy, right? These kitchens are like for like. I don't have to make any adjustments. I love that. Square footage is about the same. You know, 2-car garage. You know, good condition. That's easy, right? It's when it's not. When you get there, you go, all right, it's got carpet that needs to be changed, and the other places have hardwood floors. How much of an adjustment is that, right? Condition in general. And every area is different, right? Up in Androscoggin, it's different than down here. The way I look at it is that land values definitely affect what the overall price is going to be, right? I never do a calculation on land as an adjustment, unless it's something I can divide off. So if I'm looking at houses here in Portland, pretty much the lots of, you know, I'm not going to adjust for lots, right? But if I'm up in, you know, and let's say a lot here in Portland is probably worth between around 100, if it has public water, public sewer, 120, 150,000. That's what that lot is probably worth without anything on it. Up in J, it might be 15,000, right? So your cost, what happens in real estate is that on a lot that a builder pays $15,000 for, he can build a $250,000 house and make money. When you buy a lot for $150,000, that builder has to build a $450,000 house in order to actually make money, because the cost differentials that are in there, right? How much is got tied up in the lot. And they're not going to build a $250,000 house on a $150,000 lot. It's just not going to happen. Cost per square foot, minimum is $140 a square foot, right? So getting to your answer to your question is that there are 4 things you have to adjust for usually. Does it have a garage? Write this down, this is important. If it has a garage, let's say a 2-car garage, each bay is a $5,000 credit or minus, okay? Square footage, I calculated out at $40 a square foot.
How much?
40.
40.
Bathrooms, full baths are 8,000 to 10,000, depending how good they are. Half baths usually 5.
You said 8 to 10 on the full bath?
Yeah.
And these prices are for lowlands or both?
Average,
Average.
What did you
Yeah.
say for half bath, I'm sorry?
5, yeah.
Now, if it's, a bath and a half, does that change it at all?
Yep, bath and a half would be, like if the other one has 2 baths, and you have a bath and a half, then it would be 5,000 minus 5,000. So you just kind of calculate it out. If it has 2.5 baths and you have 1.5, it's 1 bath, which is
Yeah,
10 grand.
right.
And then, you know, I'm trying to think what other terms I use a lot. Oh, below grade. Do you guys know what the adjustment is for below grade on
I can't remember
They
the
talk,
class,
they talk about it?
they
Okay.
had
It's
it.
50 cents on the dollar, so it means $20, right? So when you're advising the client about whether or not they should do a basement, just make sure you tell them that. Enjoy it. You're creating a space for you, just so you know, for every dollar you put into it, when you sell it, you're gonna get 50 cents. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, just realize that when you build something or do something custom in your house, whether it's a $100,000 kitchen, or, you know, a new basement room, you're gonna get 50 cents on the dollar in that basement room. And you're probably not gonna get 100 grand for the kitchen, right? You're gonna get the enjoyment of using it as your kitchen and the enjoyment of doing it. But you're not gonna get dollar for dollar back.
Would you say the same for new construction?
Well, it depends on what's in the neighborhood, right? So if you're in a development on new construction and all the houses have $100,000 kitchens, you're gonna have to do a $100,000 kitchen, right? And then you're gonna get that.
So I was referring to like the below grade. So recently I looked at the Downs project, they had an open house
Yeah.
this weekend, and
Yeah.
all theirs are slabs.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting, so to hear you say that 50 cents on the dollar, so is that probably why they're doing slabs as opposed to basements over there, because
Just wet.
too wet?
You just, I've got 2 under contract over there right now.
Okay.
Or we, I should say, we have 2, under contracts over there. And they have basements,
Okay.
but it's a different.
The homes?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
different.
I was looking at the condos and the.
Yeah. But the slab, a key thing about slabs, my opinion, is you really should try to get them to be heated. There are a lot of good heat systems that you can put in, radiant, right? I just bought a house up on a lake, and I finished the basement, and I put in this electric radiant heat. It's awesome. There's nothing worse than a cold floor, right? Feet are always cold. It's just, that's the downsides of a slab, right? Slabs, if you put radiant, whether it's water, forced hot water, or whatever, like I retrofitted this, and I love this system. It's awesome, and it's really simple, right? Anyway, that's a really good thing to do. Because slabs are cold, it affects value. You lose $17,000 if you have a foundation basement versus slab. So if you're doing an adjustment for a slab, it's $17,000 difference. So knowing some of the basic things like that,
And what about above ground,
$40.
per square foot?
Yep.
Those numbers are in the PC drive as well, just so you know.
Yeah.
What was that?
There's a
All the
document.
numbers you're going over, we have a PC drive,
Yeah.
so it's actually all in there.
Good.
So
It's
they
slightly
will
different,
print it
though.
out.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure everybody's.
Yeah,
adjustments
Everybody's a
are
little different.
Yeah.
It's good to get different perspectives regardless.
Yeah. Yep. So you gotta know whatever those numbers are that you wanna use. So that when you answer the whole question here is that then you have to make an adjustment while you're there, right? So you should go in with an idea of what it probably should be listed at. And then you adjust from that number. So if you think it's $250, then you go in and it's this incredible kitchen, incredible house, hardwood floors, great moldings, great location, awesome lot. All right, we're talking 300. If you go in there and it's a pit and it's awful, then you're talking 2, right? So you have to kind of make that adjustment like that. So that's how you do a one-stop, is that you have to be able to kind of figure it out, which is not exactly easy, but it takes practice to do it. So knowing your numbers help. Any other questions on that?
I think it's just using tact. I mean, when you're dealing with somebody, you know, my house, compared to a lot of people, I live in a very small cape. I paid $50,000 when I bought it 21 years ago. And I
Yep.
put 30 into it, and it still probably needs another 50. It's an old farmhouse.
Yeah.
But for me, when I go home and I take my shoes off, it's my home, and I'm surrounded with all junk that's been given to me for the last 21 years from people that I love.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
it would be junk to everybody else, but for me, it creates a sense of home.
So how do you think the saleability would be if I brought a buyer to your house and had all that junk there?
Well, I know that all that junk would have to be packed up
Right.
because my emotions attached to that stuff. People come to my house, oh, it's so much clutter, you know, but it makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
Sure.
But I know that it wouldn't make you feel warm and fuzzy because it's not your mother or your kids or.
Well, that's it. And you know what I always say to my sellers? This is kind of a good one. This isn't your house anymore. This house is now, you have to look at it through the eyes of a buyer. So put your emotions of all the things that you feel fond about. If you want to sell this house, we cannot think of it as your house anymore. You gotta think of this as you're moving on to a new place, right? So you need to get that out of your mind. All the pictures that make this place special, you know, that are of your family, that's part of staging. I don't have them take them all down, but I definitely have them take down kid pictures. I don't need I don't need people stalking the kids online, right? So you try to explain it to them that it's in the best interest not to have a lot of family pictures because there are actually people who do stalk these. So they usually take them down. And I don't think you have to take every picture down. Like there are a lot of agents don't want any personal pictures. The reason why they don't want personal pictures, and this is important for staging, is that it's distracting, right? And that's what the clutter is. It's distracting. They're not going to see your house. They're going to leave there and go, I don't remember that house. Other than, the thing about personal pictures, they know your kids. They know you. They go, oh, this is Dawn's house. Oh, look at the pictures of Jesse. It's like they totally forget the house. They don't remember what it was. They just remember they got distracted by the pictures, right? You don't want that to happen. You want them to see the house. You want to see their stuff there. So that's the reason for that.
Well, it's like my friend Tanya, the one I'm talking about, I'm gonna be going there this week. They're avid hunters.
All right.
So I haven't been to the house, but I know from pictures, they've got deer heads hanging everywhere and stuffed bears and,
Yep.
and
I know.
it's gonna be a hard conversation because they're very proud of all
Yeah.
of those things.
I'm an avid hunter, and my wife won't let me have any out of the house. But on the other hand, I have friends that are avid hunters, and you just kind of have to fight the battles that you need to fight. There are people out there that, especially if you're up in wherever, that like that. Now, if I had mounts down here on the walls in Portland, the East End or West End, it probably wouldn't work, right? But if I had mounts up in Bethel or something, it's a little different story, right? And the culture's a little different, right? So, I sold a house in Falmouth with 10 deer heads on the wall, on the mount wall. And I just left the picture out because I just needed to get him in the house. I just didn't put that room in the pictures, right? And I wasn't going to insult my friend, right? Because he's a very proud guy, and I know your client. I know him. If I would have said anything about it, it would have been a total insult. And for him to be insulted, the worst thing you can do to this guy is disrespect him, right? And so you got to pick your battles. I sold the house anyway, and it wasn't a deal breaker, it had 10 deer heads on the wall, right? And, but it is, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a conversation, but you gotta know your client. I knew I wasn't gonna have that conversation, right? I sold my house a year and a half ago, and I had 2 months in my basement, kind of a man room, right? 2 big bucks. And I just said, I'm not taking it down. They're down in the basement, it's a kind of a guy room, and I left them up, and I still sold the house, right? Because it's one of those things where, now my wife wouldn't let me put them in my other house, my new house. They're in storage. But you know the funny part about it is, I just sold this $1.4 million house up on Sebago, and the guy got a moose head from Minnesota, it's huge thing. So I said to him, hey, you want a loan? I can loan you a couple really good deer heads for that, Walter. Yeah, I love it. So Saturday I'm going up, and I'm bringing those 2 mounts, because they're in storage, right? And I go, and it has to be a heated storage place, because they're beautiful, they're gorgeous, right? If you like that type of thing. And if it gets cold, the nose will break up, and stuff like that. So I get it out of my storage. I don't have to have a heated storage unit anymore, and he's gonna love it up on his game wall,
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, it worked out awesome. Still wish I could have that in my house. Communication with sellers. That's a really, 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 really important part. I gotta do a house video, so did I miss that? Alright, we'll see the video after this, but communication with sellers. Do what you say, right? Do what you say. You guys don't have that much going on. It's easy for you to call your seller at least once a week. Now I call them after every time there's a showing and talk to them about it, right? And if you don't have showings, it's harder to call, right? So let's talk about that, because that's the hardest one. No showings, what do you say to your seller? You guys have any ideas? No showings, it's kind of flat.
Change the price.
Yeah, change the price. You eventually have a conversation about the price. Okay. So let's talk about that. That's right on. No showings. You have to have a script for it. Script is nationally. Let's say you have 10 showings. You have 10 showings. The script is you've had 10 showings, no offers. Nationally, basically that ratio tells you that you're too high on price. You know, get people in. You're just not getting the right eyes on the property. Right? That's one script. The other script is like no showings. The key to it is this. Don't call them up and ask for a price reduction unless you call them 2 or 3 times to talk about other stuff. Right? And that's the most important thing, is that if you call them every week, just check in and say, hey, you know what? I called a bunch of brokers this week and came up in our networking meeting and I talked about your listing. I just want to let you know that I'm out there trying to push it. That's one talk, right? Next week, call them up and you go, I went on Realtor.com and I looked at the numbers and you had a lot of visibility on Realtor.com. We had blah, 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 number of people looked at it. However, we're just not getting them in the door. Maybe they'll bring up something like the price reduction. Now, I've talked to them twice and I didn't bring up price reduction. Right? The third time, I'm definitely bringing up price reduction. Right? Now I've actually called them without just asking for a price reduction every single time I call them. Right? Then you say, you know what? I think we're on the market, but we're not in the market. We're just missing, we're not getting in the eyes of the right people. I think we need a price reduction. I suggest looking at, and I use some advanced stuff, like I looked at what I try to do is look for a gap in the pricing. I explain gap pricing. And I say, I think the gap here is I'd rather compete against these houses at $280 than the house at $325. So if we can drop this down at $280, we're going to be competing against these houses versus those houses. Right now, your house is selling those houses. So you got to have these scripts down, right? That's the other thing I'm going to say is master scripts. Don't just do 50 million different scripts that you're never going to use. Not everybody. Use the ones. Figure out what the ones are that you need to know well, and practice them. Like a price reduction. You know what you're going to say, right? whatever the other scripts are that you use all the time. Yeah.
Would you say it would be beneficial to have like a price reduction conversation while they're first signing with you? Like if you know you're taking on a listing that's overpriced?
Yeah, what I often do on that is if I'm taking on a listing, so that's a really, really good question. Let's say I think the house is 300 or something, right? And they think everybody thinks the house is worth more than it is, first of all, right? So let's say they think it's 375. I'll go and I'll say, look, I've got this at 300, you're at 375. Bold kind of teaches this. I think they teach it better than I've taken Bold 6 times. First time I took it, the guy said, don't take overpriced listings. And I kind of listened to that and I go, okay. So that guy at 375, I couldn't get my price at 300. I wouldn't take the listing. Someone else would get it. It ended up selling at 300, but someone else took it at 350, and they closed. I kind of think about it. Wait a minute. I'm missing something here. I'm not getting the listing. I'm not taking it. Someone else is getting it and they're selling it. So I talked to somebody about it and go, this is just, I won't say what I said. My D came out really strong. So anyway, I talked to whoever it was and he goes, yeah, well, I don't think he didn't mean that don't take the listing, just take it for less than what they want to list it. Somewhere between 300 and 375. So my goal, yeah, that's the answer. So my answer is, okay, I'm at 300, you're at 375. What if we list it at 350? In 30 days, we have an automatic price reduction to my number of 300 if it doesn't sell. My goal is to get every nickel out of this house I can for you. So if I can get 350, that's what I want to do. So they want to know that you're vested. They want to know that you're going to get. You're not just trying to get a quick sale and move on. You're trying to get every dollar out of it. You have to have a good that's a good script right there, right? So let's say you get it for 350, you have a price reduction after a month, right? You'll definitely know in a week. You could say 2 weeks, right? You pick what you want. Say whatever I want. I make it up as I go along. Sometimes a month, sometimes 2 weeks. Read the people, right? How urgent is it for them to move on? How much motivation is there, right? Read their motivation. We got a lot of motivation to say, hey, look, you want to get to Florida, right? We got a price list so we get the right eyes on it. The market's going to bear what it will bear. It's another great script, right? The market's going to bear what it will bear. If I list it at 350, put it on Wednesday, we have an open house on Sunday, look at all offers on Monday, we'll get more than 350 if it's worth more than 350. We'll have 3 offers and it'll be over. But if we don't get the right eyes, people at the open house, or if we don't get the right eyes on it in the search, you're going to be selling everybody else's houses, right? And you should have this script as fluid as I'm saying here right now, right? Don't hesitate. You got to know what you're going to say so it's fluid and conversational. So practice that. That comes with time, but you can definitely do it.
Is there like a stigma around when a house the price is reduced? Like, do you find that people that are searching for homes are kind of like, oh, what's wrong with that house? Or
I think in this market, depending on where you are, if you're in Greater Portland, I would say you're missing the market's a bad thing, and you're gonna have a conversation about that. We're gonna miss the market. I usually draw an XY axis like this, right? And I say, this is in the market, and this is on the market. So in other words, you know what an XY axis is, right? Basically, with an arc, and I put that number or whatever I think it is on the arc. Over this, we're on the market, we're not in it, and below it we are. So
I don't know what a Y is because you're talking.
XY axis is just 2 lines that look like this, basically, and then you draw an arc across like this.
Okay.
This is the part that's in the market, right? This is kind of in the arc, but not in the market. So you kind of get them to understand it, right? Price reductions definitely work, because suddenly now we have all new eyes on it, right? We didn't see it before. I had one the other day, I'm trying to remember where it was. I think it was the one with the long grass. Yeah. Long grass guy. I go, I think this, I don't know how much it was now. Think for a second. It was well, first of all, one of my buyer agents calls me and tells me the square footage, right? And I'm just doing this kind of like, I know the area, kind of just doing it. She says, all right, what do you think it's gonna, what is it? I said, how many square feet? 1,200. Okay, 1,200, North Deering. Probably, tells me about it. I said, probably 250, 255. And she goes, okay. But come to find out, it's a split. It's not 1,200 above grade. It's not a ranch, and that's a totally different scenario, right? It's not really the same thing. If you gave me a ranch, 1,200 square feet of upgrade, definitely 255 all day long, right? So anyway, put it on at 250. After I saw it, I told the guy, I kind of think this is kind of high. Now let's try it. Put it on 250, 0 showings, right? We changed it to 235. We had 3 or 4 showings, 2 offers that day. I think we waited a week, less than a week, like 5 or 6 days, had a price reduction. Right eyes gone on, we had 3 offers, one under contract for, I can't tell you how much, hasn't closed yet, but more than the asking price. So, actually, yeah, I can't tell you what it is, it's not closed, but you can kind of figure out one over. Yeah. So, getting the right eyes on it is key, and that's how it works.
But it's also gonna be contingent too on what the appraiser says, right?
Yep.
Because a lot of banks, mortgage companies will not pay out more than what the appraiser appraises at.
All banks. Yep. That's a different question on how to handle that. You want to talk about it? So I'll take 2 seconds to tell you what to do. So let's say you have a house that doesn't appraise, right? You have got to get the buyer and the seller to kind of come together. Now, as a buyer agent, you need to say, house isn't going to appraise, it didn't appraise, so we can't loan on any more than that. Will the seller go to that number? Seller may not. I had one up at Long Lake, 1.4 million, like a month ago, and it appraised for 1.2. My buyer was going to bring $100,000 to the table out of pocket and buy it at 1.3. This guy was the guy that bought my property. Didn't end up buying that one, bought my property in Sevago for 1.4. Anyway, make a long story short, the other thing is to get them to come together and bring more money to closing. So you can bring money to closing, the loan on whatever the number is, but the buyer would have to bring extra cash to close, right? That's how that would work. Sometimes you try to get them to split it. That doesn't usually happen, right? Usually the buyer doesn't have the money to bring it to closing because it's, in reality, people usually buy as much house as they can possibly buy, and then they don't have any extra cash to bring to closing or whatever, already used it 20% down or 5 or whatever it is, right? So that's the answer. You then need, as an agent, do your job and try to get it to stay together, right? And that's what we are. We're problem solvers, right? We're not just open the door, walk in, show it, and leave. You got to be able to kind of figure this stuff out, right? And that's what you're learning how to do. So oftentimes the conversation I have with the list agent is, hey, look, didn't appraise in this guy, it's not going to appraise for the next guy. So why don't we just let's go with the 250 price or whatever it is. So that's kind of the conversation. But I know that North Deering house, I had priced at 250. I knew it would appraise at 250, which it did. For whatever the number is, it did appraise for whatever it was above asking. Because there's so many comps there. Now, the interesting part about this, the list agent didn't think so. And I've known her for 20 years. So she was giving my buyer, who I let my buyers just co-list with me. So they were co-listing and talking to Lori, and Lori goes, hey, she doesn't think this is going to appraise, she doesn't want to list it. I call her, I go, so I said, look, North Deering, this is going to appraise. Let's just put it together and see what happens. Okay, Dawn, you say so. And I didn't realize that it was a split ranch. It was an easy call, 1,200 square foot ranch. That's nothing. That's a done deal. I'm find out it's a different house. So you put your reputation on the line when you start saying stuff like that, right? Because next time they go, hey, yeah, right, you really don't know the market. You think you do, but you don't, right? So, anyway, we got it through and it appraised and everything, and everything's good. I think we closed on it this week. So, that's kinda how that works, yeah.
If you're working the listing side and the house doesn't appraise, do you find that a difficult conversation with the sellers? Like, are they angry at you because
No.
you said it?
They're not angry at me. This is what I usually say, you know what, everybody has an opinion. Unfortunately, the appraiser's opinion is less than ours.
And they're usually accepting of that.
Everybody's different, right? Everybody's different.
I guess
I'm
it
just a
depends on how bad
messenger.
they wanna sell it, right?
At that point, they'd already agreed to pay that amount for the house, so it's
Yeah.
hard to be mad at that.
I'm just the messenger, right? I'm just the messenger. I'm just telling you what's going on. I'm here to help you figure this out. These are your options. Try to take the emotion out of it.
Right.
You know, selling your house is one of the most emotional things in your life, right? Other than divorce, selling your house is probably second, and buying a house. So basically, you need to try to not be emotional about it, right? Try to take facts, just kind of talk, be supportive, and not like totally not caring. That's not what I mean. I mean like, hey, yeah, I know this is tough. Let's just kind of focus on the facts. This is what we got. You know, tell me these are your options. I'll do my best to see if I can get them to meet you halfway on it. It's a process too, right? I don't just say take the number on the thing, and I'll say, why don't we see if I can get them to go halfway with you, which they hardly ever do. Although I got the guy come up $100 grand on the house, right? Guy was older though, didn't matter. The grand's a drop of a bucket. So, but you know, that's kind of how I do it. And then I come back and say, hey, you know, they're sticking to the appraised value. They just don't have the cash. Yeah.
For inspections, I'm confused about this part. Like, so due diligence, let's just say, is like what, within 10 days? And that means inspection period, correct? So when do you have to have things fixed? If you're on the listing side, do you have to have by that 10th day, or do you have how does that work?
Usually you write it up by transfer of title.
Okay, so that's
So
when you have.
let's say they come up with whatever, mold, mitigation, radon, typical things that come up. You know, usually you have to make sure you have someone review these, right? You should all have someone like Joe probably reviewing your stuff. So it should say, buyer and seller agree, seller will mitigate using a licensed professional, the mold in the attic by transfer of title. Right, that's one way now. You could also go, depends on how you want to deal with it. The other one is, if you don't have any closing costs, you can say seller to pay buyers closing costs, points and prepaids up to, $8,000 or something. And then they can do it afterward, right? That's a really easy way. Most time that stuff you usually have closing costs already in there and you don't have $8 grand. Yeah.
So you would take off closing costs as opposed to the price, because that affects your commission and it affects the columns and all
No,
that,
doesn't have
right?
anything to do with my commission. It's money in their pocket to do the work. Closing costs you got to bring to closing, right? So in other words, your closing costs are $8,000, right? $8,000 on a mortgage is about $60 a month, but you don't have any money to do the mold. So what you do is you kind of get $8 grand, and then they can do the mold themselves because they have $8 grand they didn't spend, right? Another thing you can do that I do all the time is get your estimates, and then you have a check cut to that not install in this case, mitigator. So seller to pay Abrams Environmental $8,200, at transfer of title. So then the check is cut on the seller side, it's there, and then the work can be done after closing, right? All these things come into play on how much time you have between the inspections and the closing date. If I have 2 months, there's no reason why, or 45 days, should be able to get it mitigated before transfer. If it's a 30-day close, tougher, right, especially this time of year. Also, in mold mitigation, you can't really do mold mitigation in the attic in January, February, March. This is where it comes up most of the time. You gotta wait till it's warmer in order to get the mold out of the sheathing, right? So that's another reason why you postpone it and do it later. But the key point here is that it's not fraud, bank fraud, if it's on it needs to be on the closing disclosures, right? You can't just write a check or whatever. It's gotta be on the closing disclosure saying, you know, this company's gonna do this mitigation, you know, and I don't even tell them they haven't done the mitigation, because they don't need to know. There's no, it is kind of a business, but I don't give them a bunch of extra stuff. I teach my buyer agents to say, this work was done. This work, we need to write a check to this company for work on ABC Main Street. I never say work that has been done, I'd be lying, right? Just choose your words carefully. You don't want to lie. They never ask me if the work's been done. If they do, I tell them, no, we can do it afterwards. You can't do it now anyway. And they're pretty, there's a good reason for it. They're quite reasonable. But sometimes they want to have their own mitigator do it, right? Like a septic system. They want to have their own solid do it. So I had one the other day. We had 2 estimates, and the seller agreed to pay, I think it was like $9,000 something to an installer, and cut the check, and it was actually escrow. Yeah, I think it might have been held in escrow. Yeah, I think that one was held in escrow. In other words, the bank held it, so he could choose whoever he wanted to do it, and give him a check and then reimburse him. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, right? But the key thing is to make sure you're not doing it so it's bank fraud, right? Bank fraud happens when you do stuff and it's not on the closing docs, right? It's got to be on that seller's ledger saying $9,200 to Abram Environmental, right? That's all upfront, right? Nothing sleazy about that.
So so then the inspection comes in, there's a couple of things that came up. Do you see the inspection report?
You can ask for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
they might just send you the pages of the things that are in question.
okay.
Yeah, can you send over the documents, document it for me so I can see exactly where it is or whatever it is.
Yeah, because my seller would like my client would like to, I guess if there's something with electrical, she wanted to know exactly what the electrical was, because if she wants to get her electrician in there,
Yeah.
she wants to know exactly what it is, but we haven't gotten the inspection report. They said that, what's the ICA again?
Investigation Contingency Amendment.
Yeah.
It's a release form.
Okay,
Yeah. So they should send it so you actually get it right. Turn around and say, look, in order to make sure we get this right, can you send over exactly what it is in the
Yeah.
pictures, and what he said, so we make sure we nail it.
okay.
And then they'll send it over. If they want to nail it.
And then you have till the closing.
If you write it up that way, yes,
And,
it
okay.
should be that way.
And you write it up before the 10 days though.
Yes. The
That's
key
the
is
big
that
deal.
you have
I
to
just wanted to make sure I got everything for my deadlines, that's why.
you have to have everything in writing.
Yeah,
This is really important. I know we're talking forms here, but
yeah, sorry.
these are the things that you really need to get right. So in that 10-day period, in that 10-day period, you need to have, by that deadline, 5 o'clock usually, you have to have something in writing, or the contingency goes away.
Okay.
So as a list agent, it's not that big a deal. It's the buyer that really matters. So, but you don't want to have it go by as a list agent. It's not really good faith. You should have it figured out by then. Now, as a buyer agent, if you're worried about losing the money, have a conversation with the buyer and say, you know what, we're getting close on the end of the day, and you may lose your earnest money if we don't put a termination in the bottom of this. So if you're worried about the earnest money, we need to sign the last part of this thing that says that modifications and termination. In other words, if you don't do it, we terminate. There's a lot of bad things about that, because the seller may want to terminate, take a backup offer that's better, right? And you cannot renege on that once you sign it. You don't have, like on the modification, if they don't agree, you don't lose the contract. right? You're still in contract, just don't have that contingency anymore, right? So you just gotta be careful as a buyer agent that you don't lose your earnest money, the buyer's earnest money. And they might be okay with it. It's rolling the dice, you know, and to see if, you know, you're gonna, you know, push their hand or not, right? But if they're worried about every nickel and dime, make sure you ask them, look, if you're worried about losing your earnest money, you need to put this termination. I just want to explain this to you. If you put this termination modification paragraph in play, they can terminate, it terminates the contract if they don't sign it, and they can take a different offer. And they'll go, I want the house. Well, if they don't care, then usually they want the house, so they're not going to sign it. But, you know, if it's $10,000 or 20 grand, then it matters, right? If it's $1,000, then it probably doesn't matter that much, right? So, I mean, it does, but it doesn't, you know what I mean? 10, 20 grand, when I get an earnest money, I try to get, you know, decent earnest money checks so that there's some skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
So,
What percentage do you usually try to get?
I don't know, I think the going rate, what they usually say is 2 grand, 2%, I mean. This is the way I do it. I usually don't put $1,000 down, because I know they're gonna ask for more. I know they're gonna ask for 5 if I put down 1. I put down 3, 2 or 3, usually that's all you gotta do. If you put down 1, I guarantee you're gonna ask for 5. So if you put 2 or 3, and you take away that 5, which is better. That's how I explain it to my buyer agents usually. Ask, put down 2 or 3 grand. You know, they're not gonna do anything on that. 2% is what nationally I think is what they usually say.
So much to it. There's just so much. I mean, I can remember thinking, oh, I want to be a real estate agent. You know, I'm going to show some houses and I want to make some money. And I was like, it's mind blowing what really, how much is involved in this.
How many? There's a list that we have. You're right. There's 180 things you have to do to sell a house. And I have a list I give in my pre-pack that said it lists 180 things. Because there are 180 things you gotta do.
Right.
Alright, I wanna see if I can figure, who's techie in here? I bet you're a techie, I bet you're a techie, I bet you're a techie. Alright, I wanna escape.
Look at me. The gray hair.
Yeah,
gives it away.
look at this, I'm doing alright. Now I can figure out how far, so I'm down here. I think these are downloads, maybe if I hover over them. So if I click on this, am I gonna get the stuff behind here, you think? Or, I just don't want, this is a download, so it's gotta be this, right?
Screen in front, or?
No, it's not it.
I don't know.
I'm supposed to just click on, I think on this.
You're trying to get to the videos in the back?
Yeah,
Okay, so go, get your mouse over to that back and then
Over
click
here?
somewhere back, yeah, on the, yeah,
alright, see what we got here.
there we go.
You're so smart.
Alright, this is the open house one, is that the right one? Yeah, okay, this is a really, really good video. And you guys have the time to do a 5-level open house, right? And they pay off. So they're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff here, and I know Joe talks about 5th level open house. You know, on open house, level 1's like, you basically put it in the paper and you show up, right? And then there's level 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And, you know, so this is kinda, I think this talks about, I don't know if it's a 5, but it's close, so enjoy this, it's good. Uh-oh, I gotta get rid of this other stuff, right?
Hi, I'm Chris Suarez, and I'm here to tell you the 5 steps to holding an effective open house.
Alright, you're just gonna have to deal with it, sorry.
Strategically
I'm not getting paid for this.
Choose a home that gives you the greatest potential to have buyers and sellers find you. This might be a home that is in a great traffic pattern, whether that be car traffic or people walking by in walkable neighborhoods in your community. Select a home around a local event where neighbors or even out-of-town people might be stopping in. Step 2 of holding an effective open house is advertising and marketing. Marketing begins a week in advance of any open house you might hold open. Begin by posting internet ads a week before. Get a sign in the yard and let neighbors and passerbys know that the home will be open later in the week. Remember to contact both by phone and email any internet leads or phone calls you've received on that listing prior to the open house. Don't forget to make 50 calls around the home prior to the open house and door knock, a radius of about 2 or 3 blocks. Step 3, know your scripts. Know what you're going to say to greet the visitor. Know what questions you're going to ask while they're in the home. One of the greatest first lines you could use is, "Thanks for stopping in to tour my open house. Are you one of the neighbors, or are you out shopping for a home today?" Immediately you'll know if you're dealing with a potential buyer or a potential seller. Step 4 is keep the right mindset and prepare. Remember, open houses are lead generation activities, so enter with the mindset of a top lead generator. Prepare yourself with comparable properties, market research, at least 2 or 3 other homes that you could potentially show should the opportunity arise. And step 5, always follow up with every lead that comes through that door. Call them, email them, write thank you notes that same day. A simple follow-up script to use directly after an open house goes like this. "Thanks for stopping into my open house this morning. It was great to meet you. I did a little bit of digging in the office after we met and after the open house and found 3 other properties that I think really fit your search criteria. I know the home that we saw this morning wasn't quite perfect, but these 3 have some real potential. We could get into them tomorrow at 4 or at 6, which would work better for you. Great, let's meet at my office and we can go from there." My biggest aha when doing open houses is remembering open houses are not a technique to keep current sellers happy. In reality, open houses are great lead generation tools to connect with potential future buyers and sellers. By using effective scripts and systems leading up to the open house and great follow-up techniques after the open house, you'll build a met database of future buyers and sellers. Thanks for watching KW Connect and make it a great day.
Okay, why don't we take like a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and we'll discuss this. And we'll go from there. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
Done all these yet? Or are you doing them again?
No, I missed 6 and 12. Yeah. Probably don't need to do it though. But what about you?
I've missed the last 3 twice now.
Oh.
So I gotta get
scheduled to do them all in a row and be done with it.
I gotta get 10, 11, and 12 done.
It's really hard to do lead gen when you have to be here.
Yeah.
And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have other crap going on with my regular life.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, these are all great strategies when I finally get out there. But how do, I'm just, although I do have an appointment this week, my first one.
Nice. Congratulations.
Did you go to the one thing?
And then I have another one trying
Yeah.
to get into she's
You went? Yeah, that's right.
just pinning me down on
yeah,
time this
I,
week to get in there.
I did my
Yeah.
411,
Well, it was fierce.
yep,
We didn't have
and, I had that on my set list to do that today.
Do?
Yeah, yeah.
Please.
So, I did that last night, and,
Stack confident.
and then,
Yeah.
right for this week anyway.
Like most
That's why I like working with first time buyers.
Yeah.
Because they don't know shit.
generally, so I look like a genius.
Well, both of these are gonna be potential buyers, sellers and buyers.
Yeah.
So, cause if she sells her home, they're
She's
gonna have to have a
gotta have a
place to
place to
go,
go,
and
Yeah.
I need a mentor.
Yeah. You could always post something in like the KWE.
That's what I need. I need somebody to tell me what the hell to do. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But I
That's
don't
what
want
they're
to.
looking at you to do.
Right. But I just am not ready to concede and join a team right now.
Yeah, same.
Cause I
Wow.
do like, I like
That's
the,
such a huge chunk.
well, that's what you know, you look at it, they take 50% right off the top, even before you pay your 6% to Keller Williams.
And your name really.
Well, and the thing is, you don't learn how to do the paperwork, cause you have somebody else that does it all.
I'd rather have somebody else do it all.
Well, like, you know David who's at the table? Well,
Yes,
class guy.
yes.
Right, yeah.
So like he's doing.
I just have that like with a
He's been
script,
doing
script partner, you know, I just,
Yeah. Yeah,
but it's like,
So.
Wait, who has
Even
that?
all the business, it just hasn't followed through with him, so
Yeah.
he's.
my friend's son.
Did you say David?
No, David. David, the only thing I know that he's done is a couple of shows.
He appears very busy.
My partner.
Yeah.
And
Who's that?
I didn't really, I
David.
didn't really feel like,
That might break.
you know, like he looks like he's not young.
Like the only person I know right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
But she's saying that after everything's taken, you know, Calvin's PC and the team.
How much less
For like,
He's gonna do a hell of a lot of things.
deeper into like, okay.
Well, it's not your name, it's their
No,
name.
and not just that, you have to follow their schedule. Well, I have two teenagers right now, and I can't,
Yeah.
even though I have control of my own schedule.
But there are good things about that too, so.
Oh, I need a hug.
Oh.
I need a hug. Your kids are so freaking cute.
Oh.
I was like, oh my god. I was talking to Bob about it this morning. I'm like, I said, no, they're not selling lemonade. Now they're selling rocks.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it's.
You know, I actually did that when I was a kid. I'm
But it's
surprised that
art.
They came up with it.
It's art.
But,
You know, it's a
I used to
form of
color
art.
rocks with paint brushes, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's like a thing. We've got painted rocks everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
My 6-year-old.
Yeah, mine are 6 too. I have
Constantly
twin
twins.
6-year-old, yeah.
You know what I
You
saw?
have, you have twins?
No,
no,
you
not
have
you,
twins.
yeah.
Well,
I'm like,
no.
wait, you have twins too?
You
Lord
know what's
help
really
me.
cool? I saw in like a
No, I don't know how you do it.
a do your own whatever on your rock wall around your house using fluorescent paint.
Oh.
That it well, it's some kind of a paint that glows in the night.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That would be handy.
That's really
We
cool.
live on a corner and somebody actually drove through our rock wall
Oh my goodness.
a year ago.
Wait.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So wait, I forgot, do you have?
I have a 10-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl.
Oh, okay.
Well, they're almost 11 and 7.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I know it was like, you know, actually mine are, they turned 7 at the end of August, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine are September and October.
Oh, okay, so yeah, so close too. Yep.
It's fast. Well, the first 3 years.
No, right, I know. Yeah, first 3 years, no.
And now they're flying.
Oh. So painting rocks is big in your house too. Yeah. Yes, they were all into that. They made tons of paint, can you believe it? Like, we live on a dead street, I'm like, you guys, where are you gonna sell it to? Alright, go ahead and do it. Here's your paint.
Well, he's gonna call you
Their
and talk
table,
about it,
you know, they
okay?
have their little table and
I'm in my
stuff.
class, I gotta.
Set it up and
I gotta
they'll
do
go
this.
from
Alright,
process.
bye.
And then, yeah, one garden variety for $10.
What?
You know, and then people in the street, they're yelling, they're load on their side.
Alright.
30 cents surrender rocks, painted rocks.
They gotta raise the price.
Yeah, but you know what, they were saying 30 cents and under, and they're getting like, you know, nobody.
$10 a
yeah,
rock, yeah.
people are giving them, yeah, $5, this, that, at the end, yeah, they probably each made about $10 each at the end of the day.
Maybe I should let her have that lemonade stand.
I had a lemonade stand with a friend.
Yeah.
And it was on a road with a car going really fast, but people would sell it, which was like $5.
Yeah.
We would sell it like 50 cents.
I've never let her do it because like we live on, I mean, we live near Pineland. There's like nothing out there.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody, we don't have neighbors, like,
Yeah.
I mean, we do, but not really.
Yeah.
So like, and there's nobody across the street from us. I don't know, it just doesn't seem.
Alright, we're gonna get going.
People drive by my house.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know, I just felt like it would.
I'm not quite sure how to get back to the download
We
thing,
have a lot of
so.
neighbors, but it's just like this.
Let's
It's
just
not
talk
a
about,
pass-through type of way,
let's
so.
talk about the open house things. Any ahas from that?
I
Yes.
I have a question, cause I've done a few open houses now for other agents.
Yep.
And, I mean, I always feel like guilty if a big group of people come through and I don't get to talk to everyone. Is that normal that you don't get to connect with everyone? Cause I just have this sick sense of guilt, like, oh, I didn't reach
Yeah.
everybody, but when you're only one person, you can't
Right.
always capture everyone. Do you have
Yeah.
a way to like help with that? Or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, you know, it depends on what you're trying to do, right? So, if you have a bunch of people come through, let's say you have 3 parties come in at the same time, it's easy when there's one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what you're trying to do first of all. What you're trying to do at the open house is you're trying to sell the house.
Mm-hmm.
Number one thing that I try to emphasize is that it's not just to pick up buyers, okay? Now, the reason why I say that is because oftentimes buyer agents are doing the open houses and they're not really thinking that they're listing potential clients there as well. So they say it in here, it's not just buyers, you're auditioning for a listing, right? A lot of times people go around and they go to open houses to see how you handle it, meet you, talk about Mets. Well, guess what? You are now a Met for them because they met you. And you're auditioning. Now, I have had many times people say to me, Don, you know, came in here to see you, and you know, we're going on to a lot of open houses to meet the agents, and we're going to give you a call. And the reason why that is the case is because I am not just there. I am there, and I teach my agents to be there to sell the house. Right? Yes, I want you to capture leads. I want you to capture the buyers, and you are a buyer agent. However, you are there. You're taking the seller out of their house for 2 hours, or whatever, hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. It's a really inconvenient thing to do. It's our obligation to try to sell the house. It also is our obligation to collect the buyers, because we would like to be able to call them up and do exactly what he did in the script. It had some really good scripts about it, right? About, you know, what to say to them during the open house and then what to do after. So if you come into it like that, you know, you're trying to sell the house, you give them a brochure, you give them the overview of it, saying this is 250 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, whatever. It's listed at X dollars. I have these other people that I need to also speak to. So feel free to wander through the house and please check in with me at the end on the way out so I can answer any questions you may have. Right? Give them the thing. Then we talk to the other person. You do basically the same thing. Keep them all going, right? They're not all going to ask questions at the same time. First of all, they're going to wait if they're interested, and they're going to wait for the other person, and they're going to just listen to the questions that you have anyway. But the other person has the same questions probably the other people do. They all have the same questions. So you give it all to them. They're walking through the house, and then you know you make sure that they sign in, right? Please sign in. You know, if you would please sign in, right? Capture that information, and then that's how I kind of do it, right? If you have 3 different parties, you'll kind of like do it that way. Now, if there's only one, it's different. You know, you have a little bit more time. I sometimes walk through the house with them, and sometimes I don't. I just kind of feel it out, right? And if there's someone coming in, I'll say, excuse me, I'm gonna go down and greet these people as well, right? So I go down, greet them, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of how I handle it. I'll tell you some stories, a story. I always say stories sell, facts tell, right? So I'm gonna tell you some stories. I was at this place in Cumberland Center. This was years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. And I wasn't really into open houses 10, 15 years ago. Probably, yeah, it was probably like 15 years ago. And I just thought they were kind of a waste of time. And I, just the way I was thinking about it. Change the way you think about things. Think about change. So I did this open house. This guy comes in. House is big. Comes in, looks around, goes out, comes back in with his wife and child. Calls me up and goes, "We want to write an offer on the house." They write an offer. And I actually had a buyer agent. The buyer agent wrote the offer. So at the closing table, I'm sitting there. And the guy goes, Don, I've been to a lot of open houses. Our house has been on for 2.5 years. And I know how inconvenient it is to showings. So we never go to any showings. We just go to open houses. And if you hadn't done that open house, we would have bought the house down the street because we have it under contract. And we got out of that deal and bought this house. And by the way, I go to a lot of open houses, and you were trying to sell that house. So what that taught me is that you can tell when someone just wants you as a buyer, and you don't really care about selling the house. You're just there to prospect, right? And that comes through. If you're there as a professional, you're supposed to be trying to sell the house, right? So remember that you're trying to sell the house. Yes, you want to capture the leads. You definitely want to follow up, but realize that all those things I said are really important. It comes through, right? And if you're trying to sell the house, they go, "Oh, this guy's trying to sell the house." Even if they're a buyer, they kind of get it, right? So don't be just a buyer agent there. That's kind of the key thing. So keep that in mind when you're doing open houses and stuff. What else did you learn from it?
Can I ask you a question though? How do you get people to sign in, like really sign in? Because that's what I'm like.
That's a good question. I have a trick.
Okay, yeah. So I figured you might have a trick.
I have a high school friend who comes to my open house every single week. Guy I played basketball with forever. I put down his name, his phone number, which is actually my mother's phone number, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And make up an email address that is Jimmy C at whatever, and I write in, where the lead came from. What I find is that people will duplicate exactly what the first person did. If they don't fill the whole thing out, they won't either. The first person fills it all out, they're like lemmings. They'll follow and do exactly the same thing. And then you capture all the info.
You can up to 5, so they will.
What's that?
You can go up to 5 different names before they came.
Yeah, it's a little hard when it's like 1 o'clock and things starts and I got 5 names. So. No.
Or you can't read the writing. I did an open house for Marnie in Auburn. I got 3 people, but one of them I sent a follow-up thanking them for coming.
Yeah.
And then I just sent them one a week later saying, "Oh, I've got this great technology, the KW
Yeah.
app,
Mm-hmm.
and attach my business card to it." But I'm thinking I'm sending it to the right phone number, but it might not even be the right person. But you would think that they would respond and say, "Why are you messaging me this?" But there's 3 of them, and nobody's responded back to my 2 follow-ups so far.
Yeah, give them a call. Call and say, "Hey, I sent you gives you a reason to call. Hey, I sent you the app. I'm just following up just to make sure you got it." Now you have a conversation with them, right? So,
They're
that's
not
another
answering
touch.
though, that's my point.
They're not
answering
answering,
the
yeah.
phone. I
Yeah.
called, the first time I called the phone number,
Okay.
and they didn't answer. So the second time I sent a text
Yeah.
saying, "I just wanted to touch base with you
Right.
again and tell you about this exciting technology that I have available. I'd love to send it to you. I just want to get your permission before I do so," and I attached my business card.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, other than,
Keep bugging them.
I think the goal is to keep bugging them until they stop, tell you to stop. I think that's what your class will say, is that, 10, 12 times, usually, you touch them. I'm not saying you touch them every day, right?
I've been doing it once a week since the open house,
Yeah.
so it's been 2 weeks.
In the beginning, I think you touch them more than once a week. You call them that day, right after the open house. That's the best. They remember who you are. And then you kind of follow up the next day, right? You just say, have come from contribution, like you did. You came from contribution with the app. I think, you can suggest that they get on search. And if you create a search for them, there's
Should I
lots
just
of
send
different
them
things.
the app anyways?
I think it's a touch, right? And I think I try to set the search first, and then I do the app thing and whatever. You
When
get
you
the
set up
tailor.
a search.
Set up a MLS search for them. So you're looking in whatever town, Auburn, say. So I can set up a search so you get immediate emails when good properties come on the market, that are new to the market. This will allow us to get in first, right? So they may already have an agent, but I'm just saying, come from contributions. I like to set up.
Well,
a
the thing is,
search.
asked, one of the questions, do you have an agent? And it said no.
Yeah.
So these 3 people
Let
do not.
me help you with that too. I never say that. Never. Never
What?
say, do you have an agent?
You don't?
No.
Oh.
This is what I say. Do you have a written buyer agreement with an agent? Totally different question.
Yeah.
Same thing. A lot of people working with agents on the internet, but they don't have a buyer agreement. I can talk and compete all day long with someone that doesn't have a written buyer agreement. They don't know the difference between a written buyer agreement and just getting email somebody from a search, right? I teach all my agents to say, do you have a written buyer agreement? Okay, because they're fair game if they don't. It's kind of an important
Okay.
thing. Does that help you? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, I'm trying to think. The walkarounds, right? Jimmy Mack always teaches 5 to the left, 5 to the right, 10 across the street, right? They have bigger radiuses, and it just depends on the neighborhood and how far they are, right? I think if you get out there and walk the neighborhood and do 5 to the left, 5 to the right, 10 across the street, that's a pretty darn good morning, right? And then if you choose to do more than that, wonderful. But I find that to be really important. The questions that you ask, you say, you invite them to the open house. I don't think it even says that there, but you invite them to the open house. I usually say, hey, I'm Don LaRue. I have the house listed down the street. I'd like to invite you to the open house between 11 and 12:30 on Sunday. I usually do it on Saturday morning, or I should say an agent, I don't do it, but some agent will walk it and do it. Sometimes I do it. And invite them and say, you know what, I always find that people know people who would love to move to their neighborhood. Do you know anybody that would love to move here? So you try to find, oh yeah, my friend from New York or whatever, something. So it's a way to kind of get people to show up, and then they can invite their buyer friends to the open house. You get to meet them, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of a really good little script. I usually bring them a nice little flyer that I hand them. I leave one on the door if they're not there, stuff like that. I'm trying to think what else is in that thing. There were a couple other good things in there too. The dial around. There's some services, like my team has a service that will give you all the phone numbers from an address around it, so they can get in and they can call those numbers, right, of people that are in that neighborhood. And it's called Coles. So you can just it's not cheap, but if you're on a team, your team might have it. So it's a good way to do a dial around.
What service are you using, Reddit?
What is it?
What service are you using?
Well,
Reddit?
this one is Coles. There are others, but that one's called Coles, which is good. Really good. I already talked about customer experience, I guess.
Joe has one, for us, if you have a certain area.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Do new agents ever take like a seasoned agent with them to a listing appointment?
No, so I go all mine. Yep. I want to duplicate how I do it, so I go until they get it down. go with my agents to the listing. I do it basically. They sit there and watch and learn how I do it. And then I can kind of pass over the baton so that they kind of carry the ball the rest of the way. But I'll do the listing appointment and I'll, whatever, just like I always, it's like 2 for 1 kind of, right? And that way they teach. I teach them how to do it the way I want them, right? I have certain things that I want them to do, and they can, kind of do it the way I like it done. And then once they kind of know, they go on their own. But I think there are people that will let you shadow, possibly, or they'll just do the presentation for you, and you can kind of like just listen. I think Joe, those guys must do that, I would think. I'm not sure. But, yeah, so I guess that's the answer. Repeat business, right? Referrals, really important in this. I talked about the pipe, filling it out, making sure. One of the best things in this bit, one of the best things you can do is make sure you're not what I call the secret agent, right? You don't want to be a secret agent. Secret agents are the people that say they're agents, but they don't tell anybody. Like, you're an agent here in this room, but are you an agent when you're out in the community? When you go to that cocktail party, when you go to that Christmas party, whatever, are you an agent, right? That is really important. I also think it is really important, fear of loss. Fear of loss is one of the greatest motivators. There are 2 things that motivate human beings, right? Pleasure and pain. That's it. That's what motivates a human. Pleasure or pain. So, pain is when you see a yard sign go up next door to your house. That is pain. The fear of that loss should get you to call your neighbor or drop by. The fear that someone in your family lists their house with somebody else because they didn't know that you were an agent. That's what I call the fear of loss. Friends of yours, make sure they know that you are an agent. You can't be the secret agent. And that, like I said, the day that sign goes up, that hurts a lot, right? So when you are having trepidations about making calls to your family or friends or whomever, I want you to think about that fear of loss. I want you to think about the sign going up next door and how that would feel. And that'll motivate you to make your calls, do your prospecting, and that way you don't have any regrets. Right? So keep that in mind. Fear of loss. Also, do a good job, right? Do a better job than they have ever seen before. Right? So you get repeat business. I've sold clients of mine 5, 6 houses, right? 7, 8 houses. Repeat business. Right? Think about that. You've got to have repeat business in this. If you're a one and done person, you're never going to be successful at this business because you're not developing a pool of clients that have you front of mind. The goal of this prospecting and marketing is to make you front of mind for your sphere, for the community, right? For all the people that know you, even the people that don't know you. That's what you want. You want them to think of you as the best agent in the market, right? So front of mind, top of mind is really important, and you only do that by touches. That's the point of the 33 touch, right? Is that when they think of real estate agents, they're going to think of you, right? So keep that in mind, is that you have to develop a book of business over time, and you want it to happen over and over again, right? Every time you pick up a new lead, right? Think of this. Every time you pick up a new buyer, new listing, whatever, I want you to think of it as a branch on your tree, your money tree, right? That one, or maybe it's just the acorn, right? Right now for you guys, it's more like the acorn, right? You plant the acorn, that lead is an acorn, and then you sell a house, and then another house, now you got 2 branches on it, 3 branches, 4 branches, and by the time you've done this career, you've got a mighty oak tree with thousands of branches that came off it. From that one acorn that you planted when you picked it up at that open house. If you treat this like that, and you look for repeat business, and you continue to market and touch your sphere, your business will grow really, really quickly. I screwed it up for like 5 or 6 years. where I didn't really do I did a lot of one and dones. Long time, where I was just looking for the next deal. You know, not really touching. Until I came to Keller Williams, I was a little better probably the last 3 or 4 years probably before I came here. But when I came to Keller Williams, I learned how to market. I learned how to do this business. That's why I came here. I was very successful at Remax by the Bay. Remax was a great company, you know, but it didn't teach me to do all the things that I've learned here. And that's why you're in the right place, because they would, you know, teach you. No one at Remax by the Bay volunteered to teach me how to do this business. Zero, right? They maybe had some people you could buy, you know, a video online or something, but didn't volunteer the time like you do in this class, right? So the point of what I'm saying here is that your learning curve should go like this. You know, it should be upward. Whereas a lot of people, not with this company, their learning curve is so flat. There's hardly any, it's trial and error, right? All this stuff that you're learning, and you're feeling overwhelmed because your learning curve is like this, right? If you're at any other company, you wouldn't feel overwhelmed because you wouldn't know what to do. You'd be like floundering around, trying to figure it out, calling someone. You don't even know what to do. You know, someone might give you a phone book. In the old days, they literally used to give you a phone book. Just call whomever, right? So my point, I guess, is that yes, there is a lot of information here. Digest as much as you can. Give yourself a break. Don't get all wound up and overwhelmed by it. Just think that you're on your learning curve. It's your learning curve. It's not Joe's learning curve. It's not my learning curve. It's not Keller Williams' learning curve. It's what you do, right? You're in control of your destiny. If you choose to do it like this, then you can. If you choose to do it like this, you can, right? Or anywhere in between. So, you know, don't let anybody steal your dream. That's the key. This business can beat you up, right? You can get frustrated. Don't let people steal your dream. You know, this is the best business. You're in the right place. It's the best business to be in. I have friends that own multi-million-dollar companies in this town, and I've had conversations with some of them where they go, my favorite one is Pape Chevrolet. Freddie's a close friend of mine. I'm sitting in a hot tub at Sugarloaf one day, and he says to me, he goes, you know, I've got like 10 people, 15 people that are a lot more intelligent than I am, that definitely are better at running this business. I mean, I do a better job than I do, but they would never own this company. Because, first of all, it costs millions to get a franchise. Plus, there aren't any available. And just think about how much inventory Pape Chevrolet has to carry. How many trucks, cars, whatever, vans they have to have. The overhead just for the bricks and mortar. Think of the nut that guy carries every day, you know, around. You guys, your inventory is free. You just got to go out and get it, right? You got to go out and get that inventory. But you don't have to pay for it. You just have to go out and get it. And then you get paid commission on it. And you don't have to have a huge nut every month to make 6 figures plus, right? You just need to be able to not lose your dream, keep focused on what you're doing. You know, don't let anybody take it away. That's the key. This whole thing. Do it at your pace. Don't get frustrated that you feel like you're floundering. Just keep doing it, and you'll be fine. Just have to kind of do that. So putting it all together is, you know, taking the things that I talked about, learning your scripts, knowing the market, right? Knowing how to make a CMA, knowing how to do the adjustments, making sure that you have a good mindset. People like to do business with people they like, right? Oftentimes it's not what you know, it's who you know and if they like you, right? If you just keep that in mind. People like me, they want to do business with me. That should be one of your affirmations. You guys read affirmations during the day? You know, you guys should read affirmations, you know, because if you don't, you know, you're just going to get beat up. I have agents call me every day. Every day, my agents call me and they go, oh, the crap recently, right? And so I just say, you know what? I used to be a school counselor, which helps because I do a lot of counseling. But basically, I say, I am lovable and capable, right? You gotta remember that. I am lovable and capable, period. Everybody's gonna, I used to teach kids, I had a piece of paper that said, abbreviation, I am lovable and capable. And I would teach them, I go, someone's gonna call you a bully today, rip a piece off. Someone's gonna say you're ugly today. Someone's gonna say you're stupid today. Someone's gonna do, by the end of the day, the ILAC thing, there's nothing left of it. It's a little tiny piece of paper about this big, right? That's what this business can do to you. It can take away all that I am lovable and capable thing. You just can't let that happen, right? You gotta like do positive things for yourself to keep your mind in a good place. Because if you're beat up, they feel it, right? If you're defeated, they feel it. No one wants to do business with you if you're defeated, right? They just, you're gonna attract that. So I encourage you to do a bunch of affirmations every day. Try to start your prospecting off with some good mindset stuff. Come up with some affirmations that are good for you. I'm lovable and capable, right? I will sell 10 houses this month. Whatever it is, you come up with what's there. Put this all together, and like I said, you're on a journey. It's not a destination. Kind of get it. Give yourself a break. Do the work, right? Do the work, but don't let somebody steal your dream. If you guys have any questions, I have a few minutes at the end. Glad to either answer them as a group or I don't mind hanging out and talking about it afterwards as well. Any group questions? Group thoughts?
No, this is helpful, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I apologize for losing the thing up here. Whatever. It is what it is. I didn't get paid today, sorry.
You get paid the same no matter what, right?
That's it. That's it.
How do you spell your last name, John?
L'(Heureux).
Sorry.
L'(Heureux).
Now I'm going to the class up in Auburn. My whole life is spent in the classroom here.
Good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Ooh, one of the ladies that I sent you from the open house. I just got a message. Hello there, thanks.
The person that you're talking
A little hectic right now, but I will be in touch as soon as we are ready to move forward. Thank you for checking in.
There you go.
There you go. So get in touch with you when they're ready. Yeah.
Sometimes people ignore people.
Yeah.
Don't get your feelings hurt about it. I was in car sales for 4 years. You know how many times I hung up on them and ignored it?
Yeah.
Sometimes you
Well,
call
I'm just
them,
gonna respond.
then they call you back 2
Yeah.
weeks later, and it's like you don't
I'm
even want
still
to hear
gonna
from
respond to
them.
her and ask her if I
All
can
set
send
now.
her the app.
Yeah, see, just keep after it. And
That sounds wonderful.
See you guys.
bye.
See ya.
I would love to forward you the app. All you have to do is download it.
Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, you too.
See you on Wednesday.
See you on Wednesday.
I took it really sporadically because I was working
It's
before
really
my other
wonderful.
job,
It
and
will
this
allow you
was
to look at
being
properties
offered. So I
in
only
any
took
area
like,
you choose.
I don't know, like 4
And if
of them or
something that you
something.
wanna
So
look
going
at,
back and just retaking what I
Just
had
give me a call
taken.
and we
So,
can do that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hope
Yes.
this finds you
I
doing
started
wonderful.
halfway into it,
Period.
so I'm taking
Thanks so much for getting
beginning,
back
but
to me.
I might just continue. I almost didn't even I want things
Period.
like regeneration.
Yeah.
And I need to get that done.
Yep.
And then
I would be curious.
I'm spending all my time in the
No,
classroom.
technology
It's like I'm getting all
I know,
things like that.
I
So it's like I'm not
get
even
anxious
then when I saw
about
I walked in, I saw him.
Number of rooms,
Yeah.
so I can
He
keep
was great.
searching for
He's
you.
awesome.
Some of them
I
are
love him.
like, yeah,
He's awesome.
yeah.
I love his his whole demeanor.
Yeah, yeah. He seems like really like together.
Hi,
I have a question for you. So
Yeah.
when you, like, when you guys are, you seem like you've been here long, I don't know what year, but you're still new?
Well, I mean,
Okay, alright. So like, do you have some teams with your products and like indoor, solar, like, I've heard a bunch of
Yeah.
different things, but like after your implant, like, maybe kind of.
I was thinking that when I first came, because I think everything's different, and if you wanted to specifically get me, I would like really get more offer. And I would talk to Joe about it too, because I find I get enough support from PC.
I haven't even gotten into that.
Yeah, check that
Started
out
last week,
first,
so.
just because I think from
The download says Greater Portland, but I am from the Lewiston, Auburn area. Period. That just happens to be my market center.
How I think it is they'll like clean it,
Period.
like all the things.
Hope to hear from you soon. Period.
You tell me, right, and the website with how you can market a house, like all the videos and anything, because they don't tell you what they do and then you can do specifics, but that's really. So it's a really big cut.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I tried to contact your friend, but I'm not sure if I've got the correct phone number. Period.
So you're not learning other entities either.
It has to be on the open house sheet.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's true from all teams, but the one that I was gonna be on, like if they ever have space to use in that building, belongs to that. So if you decide to leave, then you are leaving with only what you meant. And that's a big difference. That is, that I understand the problem. Yeah, before I even like yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, so just find out when like, I would get comfortable introduced a little bit to learn how to learn all this and learn so that maybe you're happy with what you feel and then start to do. Yeah, because, yeah, it's a
I didn't realize.
but
That's
you
huge.
could be offered a lot, you know.
Good morning. My wonderful people. Nice to meet you, Mark. Just finishing up the class here in Portland. Now I'm heading out to the Auburn area. Period. Looking forward to seeing you both at the office tomorrow at 2:30. You know what I'm
Yep.